How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, and we finally got some new Marvel content. Last night, during the Emmys, we got the official trailer for the Wandavision series coming to Disney+. And it did not disappoint. The Wandavision series is one of the most anticipated Marvel series coming to Disney+, and we've been waiting for the trailer for a very long time now, but it was not a disappointment. It was a very awesome trailer, but it could be a little bit confusing to some people, but don't worry, we're going to break down everything that you need to know about this trailer in this video, as well as go over all of the Easter eggs and nodes to the comics. So we'll just jump right in, but if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news and breakdowns. So breakdowns are really my favorite type of content to do, so we're going to try and dive into as much as we can here. So to start it off, we have the Marvel Studios logo, of course, on an older television set. It's very staticky, and then we cut to a scene of a car driving down a road. Now in the car are Wanda and Vision, and on the back of the car, as you can see, it says just married. We then cut to a scene of Wanda and Vision back at their home. Wanda is in her wedding dress, Vision is in a suit. They just got back from their wedding. They are officially Mr. and Mrs. Vision. The static on the TV clears up a little bit, and we can hear the music a lot more clear. Now the music that is playing in the background is Twilight by The Patterns, which is a very fitting song. Now the last two lines of the song are together at last at twilight time, together at last at twilight time. Now of course Wanda and Vision have been separated because Vision died in Avengers Infinity War, but now they're back together at last. But the real question is how? How is Vision back? And of course we're going to get into that as the trailer goes on. So we go on and everything is in black and white, and this series is going to mimic some of the old classic TV shows. For example, in this scene where Vision says, "Wanda and Vision, aren't we a fine pair?" it looks like a scene taken straight out of the Dick Van Dyke Show. We then hear Wanda tell Vision, "This is our home now, I want us to fit in." She then uses her magic to change Vision from an android form to a human form, and this is done in a style that looks exactly like the show Bewitched. We then see the actress Kathryn Hahn, who is playing the character that right now is just listed as the wacky next door neighbor. And a lot of these older sitcoms did have a wacky neighbor that would always show up. But of course we know who she is really playing. She is playing Agatha Harkness, a witch way back from the Salem witch trial times. And more on her in just a second. We go to the next scene where Wanda is setting the table by using her powers. Everything is magically floating into its space where it's supposed to be on the table. She's not actually physically touching anything. But this is actually a pretty important Easter egg if we look at the scene. If you take a look at the wine bottle that is being poured, and you take a look at the name of this wine bottle, the name of it is Maison du Mafri. And if you translate the title of that bottle, it translates to House of Contempt. But what this really could translate into is House of M. House of M is a major Marvel storyline where Wanda basically loses her mind and control of her powers, and she transforms the entire world into a reality where her and her family ruled it and mutants were the dominant species. Now we've known for a while that the WandaVision series was going to have a lot of elements from the House of M storyline in its story, and this is just a big confirmation of that and a cool little Easter egg. But more importantly, it tells us that the reality in which Wanda and Vision are currently living in may not be all that it seems to be. We cut to the next scene where they have guests over, and Deborah Jo Rupp is asking some pretty personal questions. She asks, "Where did you two move from? How long have you been married, and why don't you have any children?" And this scene is extremely important to the plot of the WandaVision series. Wanda goes and starts to try to tell them their story, but as you can see by the expression on her face, she doesn't remember it. She can't recall where they moved from or how long they've been married for. Vision then tries to help, and he steps in, and he can't remember either. He says, "We moved from," and then he stops because he can't remember either. And this is kind of like how Inception was. When they were inside a dream but didn't realize that they were dreaming, they asked, "How did I get here?" and they couldn't recall. And that was a sign that they were dreaming, and this is sort of the same thing. They can't recall where they moved from, how long they've been married from, because this reality isn't real. And after they can't answer this question, their guest gets mad. And this is where reality kind of starts to fall apart for them. Now this is kind of clever on Marvel's behalf, as their eyes are opening and they're realizing that this reality isn't exactly real. The camera starts to pan out, going from an older, smaller frame, which TV shows used to be like, to a wider frame. So as their eyes open and they realize all this, the frame opens as well. So that reality kind of breaks apart, but then we go to another one. And this time we're kind of going forward in decades. We can see everything start to change from black and white to color. Now, what's really interesting here is that Wanda says, "Is this really happening?" Now, this could mean one of two major things. One is that Wanda is actually creating this new reality, but she doesn't actually know it. Subconsciously, she's creating this dream world, a world where Vision is back. But another thing that could be happening here is that Agatha Harkness is actually the one creating this reality as well. This is something that kind of happened in the comics prior to House of M. Wanda lost her two children, and Agatha Harkness erased them from her memory in an attempt to keep her from going insane. So it could kind of be the same here in the MCU. Wanda lost Vision. It was a huge loss for her, and she also lost her brother as well. So perhaps her and her powers were becoming a little bit unstable, so Agatha Harkness created a fake reality for her to help her. And we'll dive into this more in just a few scenes. Now, the next few quick scenes, we go through more decades, but we also go through time periods of Wanda and Vision's progression. When it starts, they just got married. Then they go through the process of being newlyweds and being very happy. Then they have kids. Now, these kids, of course, are Wiccan and Speed. Speed goes on to have abilities like his uncle, Quicksilver, and Wiccan goes on to have abilities like his mother. Now, another awesome thing that we see here that we actually saw in the first teaser trailer that Marvel Studios gave us during the Super Bowl is a comic-accurate version of the Scarlet Witch. Now, in this scene, it's actually Halloween and she's wearing a costume. And it's kind of a funny little thing that Marvel's doing here, referencing the Scarlet Witch's comic-accurate outfit as a Halloween costume in the show. And if we skip ahead a few scenes, the same is done with Vision. This is actually Vision's comic-accurate costume. Now, of course, he's in the same reality, so it's Halloween for him, and his costume is his actual costume from the comics. But then we cut to another important scene where Vision starts to fly away, and he looks like he's realizing that something just isn't right. And something to note is that he still has the Mind Stone in his head. And this is most likely due to the fact that Vision was most likely brought back to life by Wanda by creating this alternate reality. She brought back in her new reality the version of Vision that she knew. And since the very first time she met him, Vision has had the Mind Stone in his head. So it looks like she actually brought him back to life in this new reality. It does look like she is the one that created this reality, but subconsciously. And if we even look at Vision as he lands down in front of this car, if you take a look at his cape, it has a hole in it. So he was brought back to life, but his cape is still damaged after the battle that he's been in, which is very interesting and could mean something during the series at one point. But this next scene is perhaps one of the most important of the trailers. He lands next to the car and he goes up to Agatha Harkness. Now, in the comics, Agatha Harkness is a witch, and she's dressed up as a witch in this scene. Now, in this scene, she looks severely lost in thought, almost like she could be casting a spell. Vision manages to wake her up out of whatever trance she's in, and she is very startled. She looks at him, and then in a lot of confusement, she asks him, "Am I dead?" And Vision, confused as well, says, "No, why would you think that?" And she says, again, just as confused, "Because you are." So she actually knows that Vision has died in the real reality. She thinks that she might have died and is now in some type of afterlife where Vision is there as well because he died. She then laughs like the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, who she is most likely dressed up as, but this is probably taken out of context, so it's really hard to tell what she's laughing at this point. But if I had to guess, I would say that she's probably realized that Wanda actually created a different reality and brought Vision back to life in that reality. Now, what's interesting is that Vision doesn't seem to have any memory of him dying. It seems like him being dead, like Agatha Harkness said, is news to him. We then go to another very important scene. It's a scene where Wanda starts to shape the reality around her. But in this scene, as she's doing this, it kind of looks like she's in distress. And again, like I said, in the comics, she kind of has a mental breakdown, so that could be something that we're seeing right here in the scene. Now, this scene could be two different things. This could be her realizing that she's not in her actual reality. It's a new made-up reality, one in which she controls. Or this could be in the very beginning of the WandaVision series. Perhaps after Infinity War, she gets kind of depressed, and she wants to create something different for herself. So, what does she do? She starts to do that. She starts to change reality. If this is the case, then Wanda consciously has changed the reality around her. And this could actually explain an upcoming scene, but first, first, notice her hands when she does the magic to change reality. It looks an awful lot like the way Doctor Strange does his magic. Now in this series, we're going to see a little bit more of her actual abilities. In the comics, she uses witchcraft, and a big power of hers is the ability to alter reality. And we're finally going to see more of that, or see it for the first time in the MCU. And of course, we know that the WandaVision series is going to lead up and tie into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, so perhaps there's going to be some connection there. But then we go to the next scene, which is a very interesting scene of Monica Rambeau being shot out of whatever reality that Wanda and Vision are in. And as you can see, the red magic around her, it's Wanda who's actually sending her out of the reality. So this could further prove that Wanda is indeed the one creating this reality. Now when Wanda originally sends her through the air, it's daytime, but when she leaves the reality, it's nighttime. And when she lands, a bunch of S.W.O.R.D agents go up to her, and if you look very closely in the back, we can see Darcy from Thor. She's pretty hard to see, but if you freeze frame and you take a look at the woman wearing the beanie, that's Darcy, seemingly working for S.W.O.R.D now. If you're wondering who S.W.O.R.D is, they are basically S.H.I.E.L.D. They're just a different department, and really their main priority is to deal with things from space, otherworldly things. But what's interesting is that when Monica Rambeau gets thrown from the reality, it looks like she's kind of exiting a TV, like she's being thrown through a screen. And if you look at this scene, there seems to be some sort of a base established around where she exited. So it looks like everybody is well aware that Wanda has created a different reality, perhaps in a very real town. And now she's simply altering the town and making it whatever she wants it to be, her perfect world, her perfect reality. Now, of course, we saw Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel. She's now all grown up, and she's played by Teyonah Parris. Now, in the comics, she actually goes on to become the second Captain Marvel, and at one point, she even goes by the name Spectrum. Now, her powers are energy absorption, manipulation, generation. When she's in her energy form, she can travel at the speed of light. So perhaps she's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. because of these powers. Perhaps her powers enable her to enter this reality that Wanda has created. Because clearly the outside world has noticed that Wanda has created this reality. They're aware of who she is because she was an Avenger, and they need to try and stop her. So they call in Monica Rambeau, or perhaps Monica Rambeau was in the town where Wanda shaped reality, and perhaps this is where she gets her powers. But it seems like she went into this reality to do a little bit of spy work. Wanda found out about it and sent her out. So how exactly do you stop someone as powerful as Wanda? Well, it seems like that's where Agatha Harkness could come in, because she's shown many different times in this trailer, and she clearly knows Vision is supposed to be dead, but she's also in this new reality. So perhaps she could be working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and perhaps she's going to try and help Wanda deal with how things are. But the trailer does end on a light and happy note. Wanda and Vision back in their living room, back in black and white again, and Wanda says, "We are an unusual couple, you know." And Vision says, "Oh, I don't think that was ever in question." You can hear a live audience effect laugh in the background, and we see Wanda and Vision smile at the camera. But of course, we know that this isn't really real. And that is my WandaVision trailer breakdown. Let me know, are there any Easter eggs that I may have missed that you saw? And of course, let me know what you thought about this trailer in the comments down below, and if you have any theories of your own. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the latest MCU news. For live updates and giveaways, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.